Continue now at the top of Daf Chaf Aleph from Beis in Meseches Rosh Hashana. This is Rosh Hashana Daf 21b. The Mishnah says, Al Shnei Chodashim Mechalin Es HaShabbos. On 2 months of the year, if Eidim see the new moon, they're allowed to be Mechalel Shabbos in order to travel to Bezdin to tell them it's Rosh Chodesh, Al Nisan ve'al Tishrei, on the month of Nisan and the month of Tishrei, Shebohen Shluchin Yotzin LaSurya, because it's in those months, Nisan and Tishrei, that we send messengers out to Surya, meaning we send messengers out to the diaspora to tell them when Rosh Chodesh is. Uvehen Mesaknin Es HaMoados. And the reason for that is because it's in those months that we fix when the holidays are. The holidays take place in Nisan and Tishrei. We need to know when Rosh Chodesh is. That's why we send messengers out to the diaspora in order to tell them when Rosh Chodesh was. And therefore, since these are important months, we also allow the Eidim to be Mechal Shabbos in order to go to Bezdin to tell them that they saw the new moon. And the Mishnah continues, and when there was a Beis HaMikdash, Mechal and Afal Kulan, then we would allow the Eidim to be Mechal Shabbos on all the months of the calendar year, Mimnei Takonas HaKorban, because at the times of the Beis HaMikdash, they would bring a korban on Rosh Chodesh. We wanted to make sure that the korban was brought at the proper time, and therefore again, the Eidim would be allowed to be Mechal Shabbos in order to tell Bezdin that they saw the new moon. And Rashi over here explains, Al Shnei Chodashim Mechalin Es HaShabbos, Eidim Sharo Es HaChodesh. Again, we're talking about Eidim who see the new moon. Shebohem Shluchim Bezdin Sholchin LaSurya, Odia Lagola Yom Kaviyusam Hilka Chashivi. Again, it's in Nisan and Tishrei that Bezdin sends out messengers to the diaspora to tell them when Rosh Chodesh is. That's why they're important. And Rashi explains, Umin HaTorah Mechalin Al Kulan. Midoraisa, really, you're allowed to be Mechal on all the months of the year if Eidim see the new moon. Avol Rabbanan Asru Lefi Shein Tikun HaMoados Toloi Behem. But the Rabbanan said it's forbidden on all the other months except for Nisan and Tishrei because there's no holidays in those months. V'lo Ichbas L'Malin L'Chasron Al Pi Eidim. We don't really care in those months whether it's Mal or Chasr, doesn't matter. Ach Shnei Chodashim Eilu Hem Midum Al Din Torah. But these 2 months of Nisan and Tishrei, we revert back to the Doraisa Halacha Shekol HaMoados Teluyin Ben, because the holidays are dependent on when Rosh Chodesh is in terms of Nisan and Tishrei, and therefore again we allow the Eidim to be Mechal Shabbos and Takonas Korban, like we said, Shol Rosh Chodesh. We're talking about the Korban of Rosh Chodesh, Sheyakrav Bismano, that it should be brought in its proper time. And the Gemara says, Al Beis Chodashim V'Sulo, is it really true that we only send out messengers to tell the diaspora when it's Rosh Chodesh for the months of Nisan and Tishrei and no other months? Or in Minna we have the following contradiction. Al Vav Chodashim HaShluchin Yotzin. We said earlier that there are 6 months of the year that the messengers go out. We said earlier that when it comes to months where you have other things like fast days, etc., you have to send out the messengers so people know when these various days occur. And so the Gemara says, Amar Abaya says, Hachi Kamer. This is what the Mishnah means to say. Al Kulon Shluchin Yotzin Mibo Erev. When it comes to all the other months, so then the Shluchim leave in the evening. But Al Nisan v'Al Tishrei, but when it comes to Nisan and Tishrei, at Sheyishmu mi Bezdin Mekudesh, they only leave, they only get sent out when they hear directly from Bezdin that it is actually Rosh Chodesh. Rashi over here says, Shluchin Yotzin mi Bo'erev could go near Bo'alil b'Yom Chavtes or B'Leil Shloshim. Let's say you have a situation where the moon is clearly visible on the day of the 29th or the night of the 30th. Devada Yikatshu Bezdin Macher. Everybody knows it's going to be Rosh Chodesh tomorrow. Inami b'Chodesh Me'uber. Let's say it's a situation of a leap month. The Pshita lunch b'Yom Lamed Aleph Yiskadish. Everybody knows it's going to be on day 31 that it's Rosh Chodesh. Mishalon Iskadish Bismano, because it wasn't made Rosh Chodesh on the day before, so you know it's going to be day 31. So in those situations, Shluchin Yotzin mi Bezin. The Shluchim just go from Bezin. Everyone knows when it's going to be Rosh Chodesh. Vein Mamtinan ad Lamachar Sheyishmu Mekudesh mi Pi Bezin. They don't have to wait till the next day to hear Bezdin say that it's sanctified, to hear them declare Rosh Chodesh. Kedamrina lekamon Rosh Bezin Omer Mekudesh v'Yida Lagola. But Al Nisan ve'Al Tishrei ein Shluchin Yotzin ad Sheyishmu mi Pi Bezin Mekudesh. When it comes to Nisan and Tishrei, the Shluchim are not allowed to leave until they actually hear that uttered from the mouth of the Bezdin that it's sanctified, that it's Rosh Chodesh. Hilkach b'shar chodashim ein chilul Shabbos shel Eidim memaheres yitzias hashluchin. So therefore, when it comes to other months, if you're going to allow the Eidim to be mechal Shabbos, it's not going to speed anything up. She'ein hashluchin mechalin Shabbos lotzeis hayom, because the Shluchim are not going to be mechal Shabbos to leave today anyway. Ucheshelo yavo ha'edim hayom yisaber hachodesh, and if the Eidim don't come today, so it'll be a leap month. V'hakol yodim shem kitshul l'machar. Everyone's going to know that it's going to be tomorrow Rosh Chodesh. V'hashluchim yotzu mishatechshach, and the Shluchim will simply wait until it's nighttime, meaning until the Shabbos is over. Lomar she'ivru es elul, and they'll know she'ivru es hachodesh. They'll know that it was a leap month. Avo b'Nisan v'Tishrei, but when it comes to Nisan and Tishrei, im lo yavo ha'edim hayom, if the edim don't get there today, v'yasaber hachodesh, and you have a situation where it ends up being a leap month, so lo yetzu hashluchim ad machar, what's going to end up happening is the messengers aren't leaving till tomorrow. She'ein bezin mekadshin b'layla, because we know that bezin is not going to be mekadesh at night. Bezin only declares Rosh Chodesh during the day. Nimtzu mematin eseiluchan mahalech layla v'yoser, so it's going to come out, they're going to lose an entire night. So therefore, that's why it's important on Nisan and Tishrei, where we're waiting for them to actually declare Rosh Chodesh. It's important that the Eidim be Mechal Shabbos, get there as soon as possible, because we want that declaration to take place as soon as possible. And Rashi here gives an example. Keitzad, how so? Let's say you have a situation where Eidim come and they testify on Shabbos that it's Rosh Chodesh. V'yei Pesach b'Shabbos, and Pesach is going to take place on Shabbos. So yesh zman l'shluchim malach yud beis yom shleimim. So then the messengers are going to have 12 full days to deliver the message. Sharei l'motzoi Shabbos yotzu v'yelchu kol yemei hachol shal beis shavuos. Because on Motzei Shabbos they'll leave immediately and they'll test it and they'll go for two weeks traveling. Halalu shleimim, they're going to travel for 2 full weeks to tell everybody in the diaspora when Rosh Chodesh was. Now let's say that doesn't happen. Let's say the Eidim don't violate Shabbos and they don't come on Shabbos. So lo yotzu hashluchim ad machar. So the shluchim are actually going to have to wait all the way until the next day. V'al karcham Shabbos shel erev haPesach yishbosu. And then when Shabbos comes erev Pesach, they won't be able to travel then either. Nimtza shelo halchu yud beis yomim shleim. It's going to come out that they're not able to travel 12 full days. They lose out on their travel. V'im Tomer, and if you're going to ask, maybe you'll say, 1 second, how can we say that the Eidim are Mechal Shabbos because of the fact we want the messengers to get out? The Shluchim themselves aren't allowed to violate Shabbos, and yet the Eidim are allowed to violate Shabbos. That doesn't make any sense. So Rashi explains, the reason why you're allowed to be Mechal Shabbos is because we want Rosh Chodesh to be in the proper time. Like it says, in other words, we need to know when Rosh Chodesh is, so the holiday is in the right time. The idea that we're saying over here about the messengers, that's just to make even more sense why we're Mechal Shabbos. It's a support. So in other words, it's not because of the shluchim that they're Mechal Shabbos. The Chil Shabbos is allowed because we want to make sure we declare the holiday in the proper time. So sad l'shana. Keitzad mahodin anachna l'chon degozlaya rechichin v'amr darkin. In other words, we have a similar idea in Sanhedrin over there. When it comes to the leap year, we give extra support why we do it, but the real reason is because we want to declare the yontiv in the proper time. The Gemara continues, Tanya nami hachu, we have a brisa that supports this as well. Al kulon yotzin mi ba'erev, when it comes to all of the months. So again, the shluchim are allowed to go out right from the evening, right when they know when Rosh Chodesh is. Al Nisan ve'al Tishrei, but when it comes to Nisan and Tishrei, ad sheyishmu mi pibezin mekodesh, they actually have to hear from Bezdin that it's Rosh Chodesh. So again, we don't want there to be any unnecessary delay, so we allow the Eidim to be Mechal Shabbos. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Minayin shemechalin alein Shabbos. How do you know that the Eidim are allowed to be Mechal Shabbos to tell the Bezdin that they saw the new moon? Talmud Lomer, because the pasuk says, Eila moadei Hashem asher tikro osam b'moadam. It says the moadim, the holidays, have to be in the proper time. Yochel kashem shemechalin ad sheyiskadshu kach mechalin ad sheyiskaimu. Now I might think that just like you're allowed to be Mechal Shabbos in order to be Mekadesh the Chodesh in the right time, maybe you're also allowed to be Mechal Shabbos in order to be Mekayim. Meaning, in order even to send out the shluchim, you should be Mechal Shabbos in order to let the diaspora know when the holiday is. Talmud Lomer asher tikru osam al kriyosam atam mechal. The pasuk says asher tikru, meaning to call it, to declare, to know when the holiday is. You're Mechal Shabbos. V'yata mechal al kiyumin, but you can't be Mechal Shabbos just to deliver the message to let people know when the holiday is. That's not allowed. And the Gemara continues that the two dots, quoting the Mishnah, Cheshahaya Beis Hamikdash Kayim Mechal and Afal Kulan Mimnei Takonas HaKarban. When there was a Beis Hamikdash, the Eidim could be Mechal Shabbos on all the months of the year because they wanted to bring the carbon in the proper time. Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, B'rishona Hayu Mechal and Afal Kulan. Again, when there was a Beis Hamikdash, they be Mechal Shabbos for all the months of the year. Mishachar Beis Hamikdash HaMikdash, Amar Lehen Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, once the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to them, V'chi yesh carbon, is there any carbon to bring? What's the big deal? So Yeskinu Shelo Yimechalin Ela Al Nisan Ve'al Tishrei Belvad. So they made a takana, they're only Mechal Shabbos for Nisan and Tishrei, but it's not important enough to be Mechal Shabbos for the other months of the year if there is no carbon. The Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Bein Shenira Be'alil, Bein Shelo Nira Be'alil, whether the moon is visible to everybody or whether it's not so visible, Mechal in all of us HaShabbos. You're allowed to be Mechal Shabbos. Again, if the Edom see the new moon, they can be Mechal Shabbos in order to travel to Bezin to tell the Bezin that they saw the new moon. Rabbi Yossi says, Im Nira Ba'alil ein Mechal in all of us HaShabbos. If the moon is visible to everybody, you can't be Mechal Shabbos to travel to Bezin. There's going to be plenty of witnesses. There's no need to be Mechal Shabbos for this purpose. And the Mishnah continues, Ma'isa she'avru Yosem Rabbaim Zug ve'ikvim Rabbi Akiva Belud. There was a situation where more than 40 pairs of witnesses were traveling, being Mechal Shabbos, in order to testify in Bezin that they saw the new moon. And Rabbi Akiva stopped them in Lud. He said, there's no need, because the moon is so visible, there's no need to be Mechal Shabbos in this particular case. Shalach lo Rabbi Gamliel, so Rabbi Gamliel sent him a message. If you're going to hold back the public in this manner, Nimsis Machshil and Lost Lover, you're going to end up creating a stumbling block in the future, because in the future there might be a time when we do need them to testify, and they're not going to come because they're going to remember the time where they were held back and they were told they were not needed. And the Gemara says, "My mashma dahai aliyah lishna de miglihu." How do we know that this word aliyah means something that's revealed, that's obvious to everyone? The language of the Mishnah is aliyah, means to say that everyone can see the new moon. And so the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Krabi, Rabbi Avo says that it says in the pasuk, Imros Hashem, Imros Tahoros, Kesef Tzaruf Ba'aliyah La'aretz Mezukak Shevasayim. And the pasuk here means to say that the words of Hashem are clear like refined silver, Ba'aliyah La'aretz, in clear view of the earth. So again, you see that the word aliyah means that it's in clear view. And the Gemara continues, Rav Shmuel, there's a machlokas between Rav and Shmuel. Chadamar 1 says, Nun Share Bina Nivru Ba'olam. There were 50 gates of understanding that were created in the world. V'chula nitanu l'Moshe chaser echad. They were all given over to Moshe Rabbeinu, except one. One was not given over. Shenamar, like the pasuk says, V'techasreyu ma'at me'elokim. That Moshe Rabbeinu was just one step below from God. In other words, he couldn't have all 50 Share Bina. That was reserved for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. So Moshe was able to get 49. And the Gemara continues, Bikesh Koheles limso divrei chayfetz. The pasuk here referring to Shlomo HaMelech, he wanted to find divrei chayfetz. What does that mean to say? Bikesh Koheles lios kemoshe means that Shlomo HaMelech wanted to be like Moshe Rabbeinu. Yotz the Baskol v'yamrlo, and a Baskol came out and said to him, V'chosov yosher divrei emes. You have to look at the words of truth. You have to look at the words in the Torah. V'lo kam navi od b'Yisrael kemoshe. That no navi could be like Moshe Rabbeinu. In other words, Shlomo HaMelech wanted to have this level of understanding like Moshe Rabbeinu, and this first opinion says he was not able to attain that because no one could be like Moshe Rabbeinu. But the other opinion says no, b'neviim lo kam. Among the prophets, no one could be like Moshe Rabbeinu, but b'melachim kam. But among the kings, it's possible. And really, Shlomo HaMelech was able to attain the level of understanding of Moshe Rabbeinu. Elamani mekayim bikesh koheles limso divrei chayfetz. So what does it mean that Shlomo HaMelech wanted to find divrei chayfetz? If it doesn't mean to say that he could not be like Moshe Rabbeinu, what was the limitation that was placed on Shlomo HaMelech? And so the Gemara explains, Bikesh koheles lodan dinin shebelev shelo be'edim v'shelo b'hasra. What Shlomo HaMelech wanted was he wanted to judge cases without witnesses and without warnings. In other words, just with his own mind, he would determine the innocence and the guilt of people. And the Gemara says, no, Yotz the Baskol v'yamralo. So Baskol came out and said to him, V'chosov yosher divrei emes. You have to see what it says in the Torah. Al pi shnayim edim. All court cases have to be decided through witnesses. You cannot decide court cases without witnesses and without warning. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chof Beis Amud Aleph.